welcome back to the Tech Tides Africa podcast. It's been a long hiatus, but we're back. I'm Kelvin, speaking from Nigeria, and I'm here with Karen as always. How are you doing, Karen?
Hi, Kelvin. It's been too long. I'm very excited to get back into the landscape of tech in Africa. I think during our small hiatus, quite a few interesting developments have been coming up. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that space. And yes, as always, I'm Karen and I'm coming to you from Nakuru, Kenya. Very excited.
Yeah, it's awesome to be back. I'm a fan of the tech space in general. I'm a fan of building things for people, not just building things for building sake. So I'm always very interested in what's happening in tech in general in the world, but I have particular interest when it comes to Africa. So it's good to be back talking about these stories again. We would look at a couple of the top stories that have happened so far this year. And along the way, we would reflect on some of the trends we also noticed last year. So let's get into it. Starting with Paystack. Paystack is one of the tech giants in Africa, and they acquired a microfinance bank earlier in the year. It kind of signals some of what we saw last year. There were a lot of acquisitions. Startups are beginning to consolidate. And Paystack is now trying to control more of the money chain because previously they only facilitated payments, so moving money from one point to another. But now that they have acquired a microfinance bank, they can now hold money. But it's interesting that their target for now is businesses and providing banking services as well. So you're seeing them use a B2B approach, not a B2C yet. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think I agree with you in terms of a trend that we saw even last year and continuing this year. And I think the main trend has been consolidation, but at the same time as well, we're seeing a lot of fintechs move from just payments to more services that they're able to hold income and also lend income. So a lot of fintechs that just started as payment gateways are trying to create a bigger portfolio, which I think is what Paystack is doing. And obviously they have a very good backing in Africa. I think they're quite solid. So seeing them moving to this space is quite interesting. I also agree with them going into the business space first. I think it's easier to control B2B lending than it is to control B2C lending, which we saw last year. I think it was with Lipa Pole Pole, where we were seeing a lot of fintechs struggling with people paying back what they have lent to them. So I think I understand why they're going in this direction, starting with business to business. I think it's easier to control, it's easier to manage, it's easier to follow up, it's easier to ensure that what you lend is paid back as opposed to individual clients. So it's a really good move. I think we'll see a lot more of that going forward. Even in this podcast today, I think we're going to see another move in the fintech space. So yeah, I think this is a trend that we're going to keep seeing. And I do think that payments is a really good gateway into the finance space. And then once people have solidified their presence and have a good customer base, they increase their portfolio. Still in that same space of fintechs and acquisitions, we've seen Flutterwave acquire Mono, which is an open banking infrastructure provider. They do API controls and data ownership. So I think Flutterwave is one of the largest names in fintech in Africa, not just in Nigeria, in Kenya as well. I would like to know how big they are in other countries. I've seen them start getting quite a good traction in Kenya. So now they are acquiring more, and we're seeing what you were saying about coming together and consolidating.
Yeah, still more of that consolidation going on, but I think with this acquisition, there's more that comes to it because Mono, as an open banking startup, they have managed to power over 8 million bank account connections in Nigeria. And this is data. We know how important data is in the world of today. So this is data of 8 million people that gives you a lot of insights, but it also allows you to make decisions based on that data. I believe the open banking landscape is quite interesting. the move to looking at customers' account records to determine how to provide services, for example, things like lending, how much you can give an individual based on their account records and things like that. It just creates a lot of services that you can provide once you have all of these data. And I think that's why Flutterwave have gone on to acquire this startup.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because data is a very strategic thing to leverage. So definitely a very smart move on their end. Very good point. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So moving forward, Metro African Express, Max, they secured 24 million in funding. Part of it was equity, part of it was debt, and they are moving towards mobility solutions in West Africa and Central Africa because they are now profitable in Nigeria. We talked about Max very early on in the podcast, episode 2, when they were laying off 30% of their workforce to focus on electric vehicle financing. They were just moving towards that direction at the time. And now they are profitable in Nigeria. So it seems that this move turned out to be a good one for them. I mean, it's awesome to see because Max has gone through a roller coaster ride. First, they were basically an Uber for what we call Okada rides in Lagos. They started in Lagos. And then there was the ban on Okadas. Then they moved to logistics. And then after logistics, they pivoted to EV financing, and now they're profitable. So they have really ridden the storm, and it's good to see some positive news from them finally.
I think Marks are the masters of pivoting, it seems. and I think we've discussed on this podcast a couple of times that logistics is where startups go to die when it comes to the African market, because it's such a monster. So the fact that they've been in the logistics space, they have seen that it's not working and they've pivoted into something that is now working is very interesting. And I think the fact that they were profitable shows that they were very strategic in the move. Number one, to reduce the number of employees that they had. But we're also seeing that they implemented other strategies like decreasing energy and generator consumption within their premises, discontinuing less profitable business lines so that they could focus on operational efficiency and managing their capital well. And I think they found a product that works and they doubled down, which I think is a very good thing to see as a founder, that if it doesn't work, you can pivot and you can take all the lessons that you keep learning and improve on whatever it is that you're focusing on now. And it also shows that there's a big interest, number one, in products that are within the sustainability space. The fact that they're profitable shows that EV is something that the African market is ready for, which for some time I didn't think we were. And it's surprising me that it seems we are, at least as the Nigerian market, it seems that you guys are ready for electrical vehicles. It also shows that investors are ready to put in money within the African context to support sustainable companies that focus on sustainability and green energy. So I think that's a very fantastic thing to see as a founder, and to begin to see spaces within the African market that are ready for you to invest your time and money in.
Yeah, I didn't think I would see Nigeria and electric solutions in the same sentence. It wasn't something that I believed would work because of
your mine fuel. Like you guys mine oil, so I don't know.
Yeah, so it's not something I thought would work in Nigeria, at least not in the short term. But Max is showing that there is a way to do it. So, yeah, like I said, I'm very happy for them because it has been a long road to get here. And it seems like, okay, they have found their path. And it's encouraging to me as a founder as well that it's okay to try. It doesn't work, pivot to something else. So, yeah, I'm very happy about this story.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Moving on, we have Andela, and they have acquired Woven, which is a shift towards AI-fluent engineering talent. AI has been the thing for a while, and we're seeing a lot of AI becoming embedded in products across the tech space and even outside of the tech space. The battle now is not just hiring good developers, it's building teams that can design, deploy, and maintain AI systems at scale. And last year we were talking about this, Kelvin, where we were saying that we are having a big gap between the kind of talent we are producing in our universities and colleges and what is actually required in the market. And I think this is a way for them to bridge that gap, where perhaps we're getting a lot of developers, a lot of software guys, very brilliant at what they do, but not yet able to design, deploy, and maintain AI systems. And I think this might be something that's required in the African market, so we can start developing these things for ourselves, but also maintaining whatever it is that perhaps we are importing from other countries.
Yeah, we can't talk about tech without talking about AI at the moment. So, of course, Andela has been at the forefront of building engineering teams. And one of the parts of building engineering solutions at the moment is AI. And AI is beginning to play a major factor. We are beginning to see a trend, AI assisted development. So it's basically a human supervising an AI model or co-pilot and working together. Of course, Andela is trying to see how they can do this at scale. But yeah, it's such a changing landscape at the moment that it's hard to tell where all of this ends up. As a developer myself, I do use co-pilots to work, and maybe you now start to see like a team of one developer and a lot of AI agents that are tasked to do different things, and this one engineer is supervising them. But of course, that creates a space where there's a reduced human intervention, just one, compared to maybe before you would have a team of 5, a team of 10 engineers working on a solution. So it's an interesting trend because it's very close to what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm still trying to see where all of this ends up. What does it mean for somebody learning computer science today? How do they get into the markets then? It's not to say, okay, learn AI tools, but what are the opportunities for them? Because the opportunities have changed. Last year, we talked about how there are not many entry-level jobs in the tech space, especially when it comes to software engineering. You just don't see entry-level jobs. So what does it mean for the next software developers? What does it mean for those that are already learning at the moment? So yeah, this is one area that I'm still trying to process what is going on there. But Andela is at the forefront of it, and we know they are always going to determine a lot of what happens in this space. So let's see how this turns out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that generally speaking, across all sectors, across all careers, there's a disruption by AI, but we still can't clearly tell where the future is going. So I think it's a wait and see game for everyone, from medical doctors to writers to developers, everyone. One way or another, AI will have to become a language that you're fluent at. It's still not yet clear how far and what kind of expectations and skills everyone will need to acquire. So it's a wait and see game.
Yeah, yeah. But one thing that is sure is AI is not going away. So I would like to see how this goes. Anyways, moving on to M-Pesa. Kenyan lawmakers, your lawmakers have said that if M-Pesa were to fail, the country's financial system could wobble. I came across this story and said I would ask you, Karen, about what's happening with M-Pesa. Is there any issue, or is it the over-reliance on M-Pesa to power the country's financial system?
There's nothing wrong with M-Pesa. I think the biggest challenge is that this is a private organization and it holds a lot of power when it comes to Kenya. I mean, they hold about 250 billion Kenya shillings in customer funds.
Wow.
Yes, so they are quite big in the Kenyan market. I think they are a giant that at the moment has a lot of power when it comes to the Kenyan economy. I don't think anything is able to move without M-Pesa in Kenya. When we receive funds from outside, we want to take it to M-Pesa. A lot of money is actually being redirected out of banks and into M-Pesa because it's a lot easier. Even when it comes to banks, we withdraw our money into M-Pesa. So it moves and holds a lot of money every single day, right? It's able to process transactions with an economic value of 83.7 trillion Kenya shillings. That's 4 times Kenya's GDP.
Interesting.
And it moves that in a year. It's more than the entire economy produces. It moves through the M-Pesa platform. So that's how powerful it is. So I think from the central bank's perspective, they're just being prudent and careful and saying, hey, these guys have this one platform has a lot of power. Do we need to introduce competition? And we do have competition from places like Airtel, but they've just not been able to reach the level that Safaricom has.
I see. I'm also surprised that it is a private company, like you said, because we have, I guess, the Nigerian version of M-Pesa is NIBS, the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, but it's owned by the central bank, I believe. So I'm surprised that this company that is a private company has this significant hold on the economy. That means basically if M-Pesa goes down, then there is chaos everywhere. And like you said, competition hasn't been able to catch up with M-Pesa. And yeah, it is troubling. So is there a situation where the government tries to acquire M-Pesa or gain more control over what they can do and not do? It's a very delicate situation because it's a private company and they are not doing anything wrong. Generally, besides business competition, they have managed to outcompete every other competitor. But yeah, it sounded very alarming that the lawmakers were saying this could be trouble. Anyways, that's my thought on it.
Yeah, it is troubling. Obviously, I believe the Kenyan government has a stake in Safaricom, but it's not the majority stake. If I'm not mistaken, but I need to check my facts, the majority stake is owned by Vodafone, which is not a Kenyan company at all.
Oh, okay.
So definitely it's a worrying trend, but we have to wait and see. So far, there's not been anything major, and I think private companies can do well, and obviously this is an example of that. So we just have to wait and see. But I do think it's important to raise the alarm that our economy is so hinged on one platform. I do think that we need a lot more competition. And I think Nigeria is a good example of that, where there doesn't really seem to be one large monopoly where majority of the customer share belongs to one entity. But that's the case for us in Kenya. Still on the issue of payments, PayPal returns to Nigeria via Paga. Finally, Nigerians,
Finally.
after 2 decades away, they are re-entering the market through Paga, which shows that global players are looking to collaborate with local partnerships and also hopefully showing trust in the Nigerian market. I do think Nigeria is quite a big market. It's one of the largest markets that we have in the African continent. I am personally not the biggest fan of PayPal for personal reasons. I think they are exorbitant in their prices. But I do think that it's a show of faith in the Nigerian market. I don't know what you think about it, Kelvin.
I think that you and many Nigerians are not a fan of PayPal. Because while on the one hand it does show trust in the Nigerian economy, also in some ways in how far our regulation has come when it comes to financial services, it's also a company that a lot of Nigerians that have operated in the digital economy have at some point come in contact with, and they have not had great experiences. For longest time, as a Nigerian, you could only have a PayPal account that can send money, but you couldn't receive money. So when it comes to sending money to people abroad or receiving money from people abroad, which is part of what makes up our GDP, the money that comes from the diaspora. You couldn't do that through PayPal. So we had to look for other solutions. And then we started working in the digital space. You want to work with a client. They say, can you receive money with PayPal? Of course, you can't from Nigeria. And a lot of times you end up losing that deal that you may have struggled for weeks, but payment is the problem because the client wants to only pay through PayPal. And some of the times when you find ways to get around it and put your money in PayPal, there are a lot of stories from Nigerians with their money getting locked and not being able to access it and various other issues. So when this story was announced, it sparked a lot of conversations and in some sense, some outrage on Twitter because a lot of people were not happy with the founder of Paga because it's like Paystack has excluded us for a while. Why are you partnering with them? You can understand both sides of the story. On the one hand, for Paga, it's validation of what they have been building in the Nigerian space for over a decade. And on the other side, with Nigerians, you can see, based on some of the things I said earlier, there are a lot of reservations with PayPal. One thing is sure, it does validate the digital economy in Nigeria, and it shows that global players are willing to come in. So that's a plus. As for the other reasons, I also have my reservations, but those are just reservations.
Yeah, I like what you've said about them locking us out because I think generally as an African continent, we have had to contend with international organizations setting up the rules that are usually very not fair for the African market. They're a lot more stringent, a lot more tough on African people as compared to people in other areas. And I like what the Paga founder had in mind, which was, why can't we build a PayPal for Africa? And I wish he had stuck to that, but that's just a personal opinion because I think we need to start building our own things and running them into the point where they are internationally recognized so that we can create the rules for ourselves and ensure that those rules are fair to our people, because a lot of the times we'll find that the African continent is marginalized in a lot of the regulations that are set because they set regulations that favor their people or favor the places from which these organizations are founded, and they do not pay heed to what it is that we need as a continent. But if we build our own, then we are able to tailor them to our needs. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love what we're doing at Tech Tides and even at Startup Graveyard. It is that we're creating a space where we can start to see what Africa is building for itself and encourage that to grow. Because I think that's the only way where we will ensure that whatever is being built within the ecosystem is actually fair to our people. And I'm very passionate about that, unfortunately.
I mean, it's not unfortunate, it's fortunate. Um, yeah, I agree with what you've said. We need to build solutions that favor our continent. And there's like a lot of the sentiment expressed online that there are other solutions that have been built by Africans to solve the problems that PayPal would have solved for us. A lot of people are basically boycotting PayPal. Yeah, I always believe in supporting our own solutions. I use Nigerian solutions to facilitate a lot of those transactions that PayPal would have helped to facilitate. So yeah, I'm a big believer in building for yourself and building for the world, but particularly building for Africa. So yeah, we'll see how this turns out. I was going to ask, is it the same with PayPal in Kenya? Could you send and receive, or was it the same way you could only just send?
No, for us, it's always been open. You can send and you can receive.
Oh, okay. So it's definitely like a Nigerian thing.
I think they saw you people are hackers. Let us just block them.
I see. Okay. I understand a bit of the outrage more now. Well, yeah, that's all of the stories we have for today. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Tech Tides Africa podcast. Remember, leave a comment or share with your friends.
We'll see you next Thursday at the same time and place you get a podcast. Until then, stay well.